calling the Antioch Police Oversight Commission to order. It's November 17th, 6:30-ish p.m., because I don't have a clock in front of me. Can we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, sorry, roll call. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell? Present. Commissioner Elikwachi? Commissioner Kennedy?
Here.
Commissioner Lacioja?
Present.
Vice Chair Williams?
Present.
Chair Taylor?
Present.
We have a quorum at 6:32 with Commissioner Elikwachi absent. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we now please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The announcement was that there are public comment cards in the back of the room along with agendas. Thank y'all for hosting us this evening. This is a regular meeting, although it's out in community. Just want to give like the notice that as we go through our agenda, each item that we discuss will have opportunity for everyone in the room to share for 3 minutes each. And then towards the end, any open comments can be shared during regular public comment. But at each specific agenda item, if we can keep the public comments to the topic that the agenda is discussing, that would be great. So for first, our consent calendar, it's recommended that we move our meeting minutes from October 6th, October 20th, and November 3rd forward. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to move the meeting minutes of October 6th, 20th, and November 3rd to be approved?
Correct.
Yes, and second. Who would like a second?
Second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Mitchell?
Aye.
Commissioner Elikwachi absent. Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja? Vice Chair Williams?
Yes.
And Chair Taylor.
Aye.
The motion passes with Commissioner Elikwachi absent.
Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is Cultural Relations and Community Engagement, a presentation by MVS. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to appreciate this, the Antioch Police Oversight Commission for the invite to present on the legacy, the program dealing with law enforcement and community engagement. My name is Mike Baldwin, and I'd like to go to the first slide. So one of the things that is important for us to start with, for me to start with, is that power provides a privilege that's not accessible for everyone else. And when we think about law enforcement and community relationships, we automatically indicate that law enforcement have power in that relationship. The dynamic of me and our organization presenting this workshop that we are proposing that the commission would allow us the opportunity to bring to Antioch, the fact of the matter is that in order for you to understand the dynamic of this workshop, you first have to understand a little bit about my personal journey. So in 1993, I was sentenced to a life sentence in prison. I spent 26 years, 7 months, and 17 days incarcerated. I paroled on October the 22nd of 2018, and a few years later, George Floyd was murdered. For me, it was important for me to do more than protest. The protest was important, but it was important for me to do more than protest because in my understanding, the consciousness that I developed while I was incarcerated, that there was a time when I should have protested against myself, and I didn't. There was a time when I was inflicting pain upon my community, and I felt justified in doing it. And it wasn't until I was incarcerated that I got this understanding that hurt people, and that law enforcement partners and community members are sometimes hurting people because they hurt people. And so I developed this workshop, and we've taken it around the country, and it's been revolutionary in some communities. Every community that we have provided this workshop in has had a dramatic effect in the ability for community members and law enforcement to have a new level of engagement. We help law enforcement to identify themselves also as victims of the crimes that many times they respond to. And so if they're not allowed to acknowledge that piece, the culture that they have developed ends up working against them. And it's difficult for them to take ownership for that in the public. And so we provide them with a safe space for us to have that dialogue and that discussion. Next slide, please. We've taken these workshops into some very difficult communities in Georgia, for example, in Northern California. We've done it, and I've been allowed to mediate conversations between sheriffs and chiefs of police, which is usually unheard of for someone with my background to be allowed to be in a space with them. For many officers, the biggest challenge was allowing me to be in a space with them. But also the challenges for my community members, because I'm a black man. And so my experience as a black man, I never imagined that I would be called to do a work that has me standing in between conversations to build bridges between community members and law enforcement, and not having any side in the issue, but really teaching us all to communicate better with each other so that we can reduce the likelihood of law enforcement responding to community members out of fear, which ends up leading to violence. Next slide, please. Teaching law enforcement to share power is an important task that the cultural relations work does. And so sharing that power provides a path toward healing that doesn't allow for them to lose their sense of authority when they need to exert authority. But it also gives them a level of confidence to where they don't have to overuse aggression when it's not necessary. Our sessions begin with law enforcement in the room first, alone. Eventually, our goal is to help them build trust, because one of the things that we found in the countless workshops that we've done is that many law enforcement don't even know each other, and they really don't always trust each other. They'll stand with each other because of the militant mindset. But in reality, I've had officers who stood in a room with fellow officers and talked about being a domestic violence victim when they were kids, who talked about being a foster child, and that was the motivating factor. But most of their peers, most of their coworkers did not know those details because they didn't want to be stigmatized for their own past and for their upbringing. And so one of the things that we do is we tear that wall down with them in the room first, because we also want to respect their authority, and we want them to know that we respect their authority. But we also challenge them to step out of their comfort zone, to get used to not being in control. Because when we bring community into the room with them, we don't want them to do more harm. Because the dynamic that the community is wounded and our law enforcement officers are wounded, and now we have these wounded individuals trying to engage with each other to no effect. And most of my community members, including myself, I had never had a positive interaction with police. I had never had an interaction with an officer that didn't include me either in handcuffs or being aggressed upon in some way, until I started doing this work. And it has allowed us to help them to see from a different perspective. Next slide, please. In these conversations with them, we get a chance to, so the culture of law enforcement that I found out, because I had no exposure to this prior to them allowing us to pull the veil back on policing and to look a little bit deeper, because that's really what this is designed to do, is to pull the veil back on policing and allow a community member to look a little bit deeper. And I believe that if this room had a smell to it, it would only smell for us for about 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, all of us would become nose blind. We would notice it until the fresh nose came in the room. When a fresh nose come in the room, you can smell where the smell is at. And so what they allowing us to come in the room with them actually done was they allowed us to smell the smell and to help point to in a gentle way, not in a in your face, it's all your fault, or a condemning way, but in a way that was allowing them to really take a look. And with our political climate and all those things, we don't really care about that piece right now. Our biggest concern is saving life, and not only the community members' lives, but even all law enforcement lives. Next slide, please. As a result of that, we found courageous community members. And we focused initially on black men and black women. And then we also included brown men and women. And then we started including individuals who had an X to grind with law enforcement. And we also asked the law enforcement agency to send us your officers who you know you might have problems with, who you know have a particular opinion, who you know have a particular stance. We wanted the loud mouth. We wanted the one who was the bully, who was the one that was going to be the most aggressive in the law enforcement agency. And they sent them. And we would only take 15 because we felt that if we had more than 15 officers, then the peer pressure that they would have amongst themselves would be too overwhelming for any of them to gain anything. So we only do 15 officers at a time because we believe that that number is sustainable and we are able to tear the walls down that doesn't put them at risk. Nothing about this training is designed to stop them from doing police work. It's designed to help infuse healing inside of their police work and a new mindset, because I believe that I wasn't a bad person that needed to be incarcerated. I was a hurting person that needed to get to healing. And as a result of my incarceration, they helped me get to healing. And we helped shape that mindset on the participants as well as our law enforcement partners. Next slide, please. And as a result, community members and law enforcement got a chance to sit in front of each other and see the humanity in each other, have really honest, gut-wrenching, in-your-face conversations, and nobody could run because the only thing that we asked the officers to do, and we had to go to the chief and to the police union, and we had a union rep, and we had high-ranking officials as well as, you know, your normal beat cop in these workshops, and the only thing that we asked is that they stay in the room. No matter how tough it got, no matter how emotional, no matter what it was, just stay at the table. Because at some point, they weren't going to be able to just pull out the badge and say, shut down and shut up. At some point, they weren't going to be able to pull out the gun and say, sit down and shut up. No, you had to face some of the emotional impact that working in this job has on them. And I've had officers to this day who call me and thank me. I had one officer who had a stroke, and I went to visit him while he was in the hospital, and he was signed up to do the next session. And I went to visit him, and he told me, man, I wish I'd have met you 6 months sooner. I wouldn't be in this bed. He said, I ain't never been able to talk about the impact that my job has had on me. And it made me emotional to hear this, because they have to put on a persona when they put on a uniform. And for many of them, they opened up about, like, there's a new person that they become when they put on a uniform. It's like, and there's parts of them that they have to, like, set to the side. And our goal is to teach them how to not set that other part to the side. Because that other part that you set to the side is the part that will prevent you. That's the part that stops you from using a certain level of force when it's not necessary. And if you keep that piece, and if we help cultivate the culture inside of law enforcement and in our community, because the way that this workshop is designed, it's not meant for us to just train officers or coach officers. It's meant for us to train and coach community members also, because I was a part of the problem. And in my community, there's many of us who do not see ourselves as public safety agents. And today, I'm a public safety agent. I provide for public safety, and all of us do. And we just don't know that yet. And we have to not leave it up to our officers to be the only public safety agents that we have in our community. But we have to be coached, trained to do this. Next slide. Next slide. We believe in planting a seed or watering a seed of hope. I believe that that is the power of dialogue. That is the power of open, honest conversation, to where we don't have to agree. but the truth can handle a question. It's our lies that crumble with questioning. And so if we have lies that live in our beliefs and in our practices, they're going to crumble when they're questioned by that fresh nose, by that curious member who asks that next question, or by that officer who asks the next question to a family member or to a mother who's raising who's a solo parent. I don't like to use the term single parent because it denotes certain things, but a solo parent who may be raising 3 or 4 boys. And, you know, that officer might have some questions that he might want to ask that he's never been able to ask. Next slide, please. Next slide. One of the things that we also do is we like to bring in individuals who have been harmed by law enforcement and allow law enforcement to have an opportunity to hear that experience. This gentle woman was Stephon Clark's grandmother. Stephon Clark was murdered in the backyard of her house, and it was ruled as a justified shooting. And it might have been, but it still was a human being who lost. And when she said to officers, she said, it's been over 2 years, and all I wanted was for somebody to tell me, I'm sorry this happened to you. And it was a courageous officer that stood up, and he said, ma'am, I'm sorry this happened to you. But the only reason why I normally don't say that is because of the legal ramifications of us taking that type of ownership. And we're trained not to take that type of ownership. And nobody in the room understood that until he spoke that truth. And because our relationship is so fractured, we couldn't have that truth spoken until that moment. And even we had one young man who had got pulled over by law enforcement before, and he said every time he sees a police, it's like when they come out, they touch their gun, and it just makes him feel like they want to kill him. And an officer said, man, I had just used the bathroom at a restaurant, and when I pull a car over, I got to see if it's still there. I'm not touching it because I want to shoot you. I touched it because I just want to see if it's still there, because if it ain't there, I got to get back in my car and go. And that perspective, we didn't get that until we had this conversation, until we create that dialogue. And officers were able to give that perspective, which set a lot of people at peace, and they were able to receive the perspective that set the community at peace. Next slide, please. One of the dynamic things that we also did was we took law enforcement into the prison system to reintroduce them to incarcerated community members. Revolutionary. It had never been done before. Officers came in their uniform and sat in the room with men who were incarcerated, serving time. And one individual that we introduced them to was an individual who had murdered a police officer when he was 17 years old. And he had been in prison for 44 years. He's free today. But at that time, when we first introduced law enforcement into the institution, I stood him up with an officer next to each other before they knew what his crime was. And I asked them whose life is more valuable. And they had a hard time saying the truth, what they really felt, because automatically, for some people, they automatically saw the officer's life as more valuable. But they didn't want to say that out of their mouth until we kind of had to, and they felt safe. And then he opened up and he talked about his murder of this officer who was the first black officer in CHP history. He lived in San Diego, and his name was Officer Archie Buggs. Officer Archie Buggs was murdered by one of my friends. And now this man is actually a friend to countless officers because they got a chance to see his humanity and he got a chance to see theirs. But what it did was we like to expose groups of officers to both sides of the harm. And just as if someone was murdered by an officer, the officers want forgiveness. They want understanding. And this man had murdered one of them. And we didn't want them to respond like a gang member would respond, and we helped them to see the parallel. Because as a gang member, I am a retired gang member. As a gang member, if you harm one of mine, I had to vow to take your life, to hate you forever. That was the concept of that lifestyle. And many officers have adopted that concept. And so they were challenged to view themselves as either this professional in a dignified role, or that they adopt some of the philosophies of those that they had tracked down. Had they adopted some of that? And they had a chance to upgrade their beliefs. Next slide, please. And now today we have officers who call and ask, hey, when is the next time you're doing a prison visit? I need to go. They found their healing. They found their voice. They found their and it was to be around some of the people that they had never known the backstory of some of the individuals. They never knew the backstory of the people that they had to get to their healing. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. We really spend a lot of time not looking for individuals to select to join the cohorts, but we like for there to be a demographic of people who are most likely to be impacted by law enforcement in a negative way. And we ask for law enforcement to be able to be in there and to be engaged. And we commit to them having a safe space to where they're not going to be bashed, but they are going to have some honest conversation. Next slide, please. Next slide. The next slide. Again. Again. We also provide some community outlets. So because a lot of times media can play a critical role in how we see law enforcement. We know that certain things sell and certain things get the highlight of the news. What we like to do is to create events that allow for law enforcement and community, these workshops for them to go into the community together so that they get that seen too. So that we don't just present one side of law enforcement and community relationships. We show this other side, but we don't want to do the pie in the sky thing. We don't want to trick anybody thinking that there's like this safe, like it's always good, but we want to develop that, and we have proven that it's able to be done, even in really tough situations and in tough communities and where things have happened. And our goal is to build these relationships before the next catastrophe happens, because it will happen. And we just want to have a safe enough relationship and a safe enough community to where we can withstand that type of pressure when it shows up. Next slide. And we also look to expose youth to law enforcement in a safe way. Not in a way to where law enforcement is just giving them a sticker or, you know, telling them this fascinating piece, but where law enforcement is actually looking to learn from the young people. We believe that our young people have the ability to teach us in a way that will change our culture and to change generations, and will allow some of these young individuals to want to become a police officer one day and to help maintain the type of culture that we want our law enforcement to have. Next slide. Next slide. And we make sure that we expose young people, and we want them to have just a genuine thought. And we had one to where we role-played a traffic stop for this 12-year-old boy. And he had not been prepped. He had not been anything. He just was selected and set up there and said, all right, the police just got behind you. What are you thinking? And this 12-year-old boy said, is he going to shoot me? And the officer had tears in his eyes. And he just walked over to the kid and just hugged him. Because some of our law enforcement have been indoctrinated in a way, and I don't believe it was intentional. I believe most of it is the direct result of trauma and having to survive the trauma of some of the messes that a person like I used to be created, and they had to come and clean up the mess. Next slide, please. And so, with that said, that was a picture of me and the gentleman who I mentioned earlier while I was incarcerated. And from that time till this, I've been blessed with the opportunity to go back into prisons to engage in my community in a way that is designed for holistic healing and for accountability to happen. I'm a spearhead of accountability boards that allow for law enforcement to have a sense of peace when it comes to someone else looking into their affairs and looking into their business, right? To where they don't have to lose their authority for that to happen. They can embrace that and see it as something that helps to save them instead of something that's designed to harm them. And our last slide is our sessions are usually 11 sessions, up to 15 officers, and we like to invite up to about 20 community members. And those same individuals will travel together for those 11 sessions, and the impact survives generations. And that is my presentation, and I'm open to any questions or comments. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for showing up last minute.
Yes.
Always just a blessing to have you in space. The work that you are doing is amazing. And we'll open up the floor for public comment. Is there any public comment?
I do not have any public comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
To the folks who arrived after the Chair Taylor already stated of where the public comment cards are, there in the back of the room with the agendas, if you guys need one.
Discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. It's really nice to see a balance between both sides of law enforcement, civilians, and you have a unique perspective, and I appreciate that. So thank you very much for bringing that to us.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your presentation. I really like what you said because it's needed,
Yes, ma'am.
especially with our young adult, our youth, our sons. I have 2 sons, and it was my prayer that another male figure, positive male role model, would have an impact on their life. And you're doing just that. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks very much. So when you pull a particular series together, would it be exclusively, for example, with just residents and officers from Antioch? Or would they potentially be a mix of officers and residents from a variety of locations?
So usually we go into one community and we would get a mix of officers and community members from Antioch. When we went to Muncie, Indiana, for example, we only wanted people who were in Muncie, Indiana. Muncie, Indiana was like, it was a war happening. And when we went to Coweta County, Georgia, it was that county. And not unless you have partner counties and there's partner cities that are really like close to one another, then we could bring in people from those areas there. But the dynamic is that when you get people who are from the same community, most individuals that come from the background that I have, or even you don't have to have a criminal background anymore to see a police car and be afraid, right? But one of the things that happens as a result of us doing a series of these workshops is that when someone sees a police car, they stop feeling the fear and they actually speed up to see if they know the officer in the car. I've seen men who had PTSD responses whenever they saw a police car, for that to be satisfied, and they would actually look to see, who is this officer? I might know him, and they wave at him. I've seen men who saw the sirens and pulled over, and they ran over to the car to make sure that the officer was okay. Because now this wasn't just an officer anymore. This was John, right? This was John. This wasn't like this, Officer Friendly died a long time ago, right? But I believe that we have the ability to have a realistic view of this officer and community relationship. And when you have civilian community members who are not criminal-minded, who have a fear of law enforcement, we have a problem.
Thank you. And then what's the cost for one of the series or for the 11-session series?
So that cost is negotiable, right? Right now, we have averaged between 38,000 for 11 sessions. But depending on the community's budget and depending on the impact of the community, like right now, we've gone into some communities that their budget didn't have the ability to cover that, but they had some severe trauma happening in their community. And we reduced the cost, at least for their pilot program, to show them the impact. And then they were willing to, no, this is what we need. And when you had officers who also were raising their hands saying, hey, we need this, right? That they didn't mind the cost. The cost was absolutely okay.
And I noticed that you went into the city of Modesto.
Yes.
When you went to Modesto, did you also work any with their police oversight body when you set that up?
I was actually one of the individuals. So in order for them to create their oversight body, they had instituted a process called the Forward Together. It was a year-long workshop. I was the facilitator of that workshop that helped to spearhead the development of their body. In addition to their MCERT program, which is a mental health practitioner riding with law enforcement, and their CHAT program, which is a program that's designed to have a non-lethal response, a non-sworn officer responding to mental health calls or to just service needs. I was one of the facilitators for that process.
That's great. We met some of their folks in Minneapolis. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Co-chair?
Hey, Mike, thank you. I didn't get your last name? Sorry.
Baldwin.
Baldwin? Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Mr. Baldwin. I just had a lot of the questions that were answered later in my presentation, in your presentation, excuse me, and then our Commissioner Susan covered some things, but I just want to say thank you for being here tonight. I think that your consulting team would be very beneficial to our city. I know you probably know the history of Antioch.
Yes, I do.
Absolutely. So I think that there are a lot of wounds that still need to be healed here, and a lot of that is a part of the reason I decided to be on this commission, to see how I can bring these tools to our city. And when you said planting the seed of hope, there's a lot of that needs to be planted out here.
Right.
And we've been, my commissioners who sit on our ad hoc, Community Engagement Trust ad hoc, been figuring out ways how we can do that. And I think that this is a really good blueprint for that. So I would love to discuss potentially having you come to our city to do a cohort training with officers and community. But one of my questions were, I know you said that you do the officers first in a training,
Right.
then you invite community in. Is that two separate meetings, like the community will go first and then the officers will go first on their own? And
No, one of the things that we do is, so our first 2 sessions are designed for law enforcement only, just 2 sessions, and they're exclusive. So the community will usually participate in at least 8 sessions, but the total is 11. So we usually set up for 2 sessions to be law enforcement only, and sometimes we have to take a 3rd session depending on where we are. And then we do a session with community members alone as well, because we want to prepare our community members without preparing them, because a part of the impact is the shock of the experience. In order for us to, fear has a way of getting to our awareness quicker than pleasure. And the hardest part with getting community members to come into the room was many of the community members who would be most impacted were afraid, right? Were afraid. And as a black man, I don't always want to acknowledge my fear, right? I'll just avoid it. I'll say, man, that's square. That's I ain't doing that. That's lame, I use that type of terminology, but when we have individuals with lived experience, such as myself and a couple of others, it's easier for them to come in the room because we're inviting them in the room. And when we tell them that, this is going to be something that's good, they know that we're keeping them safe, and we're not inviting them to come in and be snitches. We're not inviting them to come in and be, no informant. It's not on that level. And when they hear that from us, they believe that. Right. And when we make the commitment that they're going to be safe, it's easier to get them to come in the room, and they'll at least touch the water. And once they experience it, it's game change.
Thank you. Two more things. I love the collaborative effort. So I was thinking about the wraparound resources after these events, because we know there's a lot of trauma in our Black community and our brown community, but mostly with Black men, especially in Contra Costa
Yes.
County, when we're the most harmed out here. So I was thinking, do you guys participate with any mental health therapists, or have any resources that go out after this program?
Yes, we do. In fact, when we're rolling out the program, we look within the community to find who are the nonprofits that are within the community, who are some of the service providers that are boots on the ground already, and they just need some additional training, or they need some additional support to get the people to them. And we plug in with them, and we provide them with coaching. We provide them with coaching, and we provide them with referrals, and we look to engage with them. There's not a single community that we've been in that we're not still connected to,
Right.
that we don't still provide some coaching and some insight with, so that we can build like these lasting relationships. I believe that, you know, today if I could go back, I probably would have become an officer. But I kind of like lost that.
Yeah.
But I didn't lose that. I have the opportunity to help reinvest in our community in a way to where there's dignity and honor to that role again, and that it's not seen as, you know, the war on drugs done a lot of things to us as a community member.
Absolutely.
Most officers had to move out of their communities in order to be an officer. They had to come in from outside because it wasn't safe anymore.
Right.
And I don't blame them. But now the war is over. And so just like when we committed the war in Iraq, you know, after the war was over, we had to go back and rebuild those communities, right? And we had an obligation as the United States to go back and rebuild those communities, and we do. And so one of the things that has happened is in our own communities, we haven't went back and rebuilt our communities. And by rebuilding, I mean rebuild those relationships that the war on drugs had between our law enforcement and community members.
Right.
And so that's really what this is designed to do, without labeling that, without individuals having to be able to politicize it. They can't politicize it because we don't add that piece to it. And our officers are not isolated or set to the side. We invite them into the circle, and we invite Black and brown and white into the circle, male and female, LGBTQ, transgender, everybody come to the circle, right? And let's have these discussions.
The inclusivity is great. Thank you for giving us that history, too. That's always something I lead with when I talk about this.
All right.
Lastly, before I pass it to my chair, when you mentioned putting on the persona when they wear the uniform, I think that that's a huge component to how folks feel in the community
Right.
when they do see police officers, and what community-based policing it looks like.
Right.
It should be more of, I just discussed this recently, was that when you put on that uniform, it should be the sign of dignity for the community that you're serving, right? Not a militant enforcement of your persona. And so I think what we need to do is like take fear away from that uniform, but how do we do that? And I like what you're doing.
And I'm going to tell you, Devin, one of the things that we encourage ourselves to do as community members is to not make the assumption of why, but to really like get their voice in it, to get the law enforcement to tell what that experience is like for them. And I've had an officer explain that process to me. And when he left his home and he left his woman and his kids, his only goal was to make it back home. Like after everything else, after somebody's family drama, somebody's daddy died, somebody's dog got shot, after all of that, his main objective, his mission,
Get back home.
was to get back home. And in his mind, the only way he was going to do that is to develop this persona. And when he took his clothes off and he put that uniform on, that persona was designed to help him get to his main mission, was to get back home. And so our goal is to show him how to do that, how to get back home without adding those components that might make him cause harm to someone because he is afraid.
Because others want to get back home, too.
Absolutely. And so that's what we want to do. We want to help that conversation happen so that he can actually share that piece. And then as a community member, so for one of the things that I do to assist that mindset is there's some things that I do if I get pulled over today, right, that I wouldn't have done in the past because I wouldn't have saw it as an obligation. And it's still not an obligation, but now I see myself as an ally, not an opposer. So today, if I get pulled over, one of the things that I do is I roll for all 4 of my windows down.
Yeah.
I want him to see in. Because the sooner I can get his fear down, the more I can engage with him, right? And it's not mandatory that I do that. But that's something that I accept the responsibility to do as a community member who's dealing with somebody who's afraid of me. Is I want him not to be afraid of me because I want him to know that I'm committed to your mission too. I want to get you home because I want to get back home. And so we end up having those type of conversations in the room, in your face, to where it's not something that's behind the back anymore.
All right. Thank you.
You're
Mr. Baldwin.
Thank you again. I'm very familiar with the work.
Yes.
We worked in several spaces together. I think the most impactful thing that was stated outside of all of the things mentioned was the I'm sorry, right?
Yes.
And the liability. I think co-chair has several times brought up the I'm sorry thing, and that is the answer that we're getting here.
Right.
With all the trauma that has occurred here in this city, that I'm sorry, something that simple, has been really difficult here.
Right.
And so always appreciative and looking forward to hopefully being able to build something
Right.
with the city.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity. All right.
Madam Chair, I do have one other quick question.
Absolutely.
So it's actually probably more for us and for staff, is given that he indicated that this requires buy-in from the department, et cetera, is tonight the first night that members of our department are hearing about this program also?
Absolutely.
And so what would be the next steps as far as having that be more broadly presented to them as an option?
I have a nonprofit that works in prisons as well, which is how I'm aware of the work that is being done here. So I would definitely make the connections and continue community engagement and CC community engagement ad hoc so that we can loop everything in.
And
Okay.
And I make myself available to meet with whoever is needed to have the discussion, whatever deeper insight they need to have, whatever discussions they need to have. I make myself available.
Great. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Noting that all contact information is on the presentation.
Thank you.
You can move. The recommendation is?
Back in September.
On to new business. Our report out from Chief Vio.
Yes,
Or
the chief is
representation? Yeah.
absent tonight, so his command staff is here. Captain Vintner will be giving presentations along with other members of his command staff.
Good evening, Ms. Taylor, Commission. Thanks for having us tonight, and thanks to Genesis Church for hosting this event. As Ms. Scott mentioned, my name is Desmond. I'm a captain with the police department. Chief Vigil apologizes for not being able to make it tonight. He's actually out of state attending a graduation ceremony for one of our employees that just graduated from a leadership academy. And just so you know, I'm going to be up here for a while. There's a lot of topics I'm covering, so please bear with me. I know after 5 to 10 minutes, I'm probably going to my voice is going to get old, so bear with me, and I'll try to be as concise as possible. So I'll start with the staffing update. Currently, the police department has authorized 115 sworn officers. Right now, we are at 90 sworn police officers. 4 of the 90 officers just started with us at the beginning of the month. We hired a former lieutenant from Vallejo PD. He's now a captain with us, Captain Bauer. A sergeant from Fairfield PD who's now a lieutenant with us, Franco Caesar, and 2 academy graduates. They'll be having their swearing-in ceremony on the 24th at 3 p.m. at the police department. So if you're available, come on down and welcome them to the family. We also have 5 officers that are currently in the field training process. That means that they recently graduated the police academy and they're currently with the field training officer. We also have 2 laterals that are in the background process with us. We have 8 entry-level applicants that are starting the police academy at the beginning of the year. And our hiring efforts are going great. We had a police officer testing last Friday that resulted in 4 more applicants moving on to the background process. We also have a testing coming up on the 25th of this month, and we're hoping to get some more applicants, through the testing process at that time. And we continue, as I mentioned, to make great progress in recruiting, and wanted to recognize our Human Resources Department, as well as our hiring and recruiting team for the great work they are all doing. We hope to be at 100 officers or so by mid-2026, which is a lot of progress for us. Also wanted to give a quick update on our community engagement efforts. Our Halloween event, which was hosted a few weeks back, was a great turnout. I wasn't able to make it, but I heard there's probably about 1,000 citizens in attendance. That's always a great event. I'm glad we restarted that. Last week, we also participated in the Ruby Bridges Walk to School event. That was also a great event. Our officers had a great time participating. We attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for Conchaloma Estates Park on Saturday afternoon. That was another great turnout by the community and our police department, and then also the grand opening of Light Ministries Church, which is in downtown Antioch, and that was on Saturday as well. And these are just a few of the many community engagement events that our officers are out there engaging with the community on a daily basis. And we've seen a big turnout from our officers in the community, and there's great work being done. So I'll move on to our disaster preparedness, our EOC plan. That's next on the topics. So if you weren't aware, the city has an emergency operations plan that was last updated in 2021 and can be found on the City of Antioch website under disaster preparedness. It's a lengthy document, roughly 900 pages. So I recommend anyone who has an interest go to our site, pull it up, and that should answer most questions that you have. The Emergency Operations Plan provides guidelines for a planned citywide response to an extraordinary incident. That's a disaster or emergency associated with natural, technological, human-caused hazards, or a national security emergency in or affecting the City of Antioch. In the event the city's emergency operation plan is put into effect, it would first have to be deemed necessary or warranted by our mayor, who serves as the director of emergency services, our city manager, who serves as the assistant director of emergency services, and any consultants or other staff that the directors may consult. The city is currently in a contract with an EOC consultant who's an expert in the field, and he's readily available for any type of assistance if needed. I think it's important to note that the emergency operation plan, if put into effect, is a citywide response. It's just not the police department's responsibility. It involves all department heads and city staff. We all come together to work as a team to keep the community safe. The police department's role is limited to certain responsibilities within the plan, and our primary role is being the EOC command center. The command center is currently in the community room, the same location where we hold a lot of our events, our swearing-in ceremonies, and it's currently in the process of being renovated to become a better EOC center. We anticipate the community room improvements being completed by mid-2026, with most of those improvements being technology enhancements. The city also has a local hazard mitigation plan that works in conjunction with our EOC plan. The local hazard mitigation plan, as it's said in the name, is more of a mitigation plan. It is trying to prevent hazards rather than the emergency operations plan is kind of reactive. That hazard mitigation plan was currently updated. We worked with a consultant and getting that updated, also worked with the community and getting that updated, and it's currently in the process of being approved by Cal OES, which is the Office of Emergency Services for California, FEMA, and eventually will have to be adopted by the City Council. A draft of our local hazard mitigation plan can also be found on the city website under the disaster preparedness link. So if you have any questions, that's also a lengthy document. I'm available to field any questions today, but if you have deeper questions, that document's there for you to read if you like. In addition to the city's EOC plan and the hazard mitigation plan being found on the city website, we also have a lot of information on the site that can assist community members in proper emergency preparation, and I urge all community members to take a look when they have time. All right, third topic, you ready? All right, not going too long. All right, the last one is, or the second to last one is our calls for service, is how our dispatch prioritizes our calls. So when you call dispatch, it receives a priority, and I'll get into detail on how those are prioritized. To give everybody a general understanding of the staff that we have that working in dispatch, we currently have 15 approved dispatcher positions, with one of those positions being a dispatch manager, so we really have a total of 16. We currently have 3 vacancies, so we're down to 12 dispatchers. One of those vacancies is being filled on December 1st. We have a new dispatcher starting with us. And we also have 2 part-time dispatchers that assist in the dispatch center. A lot of our officers are cross-trained, and they can fill in dispatch when needed. We also have some civilian staff that are capable of working in dispatch and assist when needed. So as I mentioned, when you call dispatch and you have some type of crime report, or crime to report, or some type of emergency, it's given a priority code, and it's 1 through 4, with priority 1 being your emergency calls. Basically, if you see the police officers responding, we call it code 3, lights and siren, that's a priority 1 call. And that's gonna be a call that involves some type of major disaster, a medical emergency, in-progress crimes, some type of silent or panic alarm, a major injury accident, or vehicle pursuit, or one of our officers is asking for assistance. Your priority 2 calls are urgent calls. Those are situations which demand an expedited response, but may not be sufficiently urgent to require response with lights and siren from a police officer. And those are typically your minor injury accidents, maybe a vehicle blocking traffic, suspicious person calls, and our audible alarms. Priority 3 calls, are routine calls. They're basically classified as non-emergency calls. And those are situations where there's no urgent need for police response or no direct threat to life or property. So those could be your cold crime reports. You wake up in the morning, your car is gone or stolen or broken into. You have no idea who did it. The suspect is no longer around. That would be a priority 3 call. Same with loud music complaints, traffic complaints, stuff such as that. Our priority 4 calls are kind of our information calls. Those are situations where police response is not needed, but the information needs to be documented and broadcasted to we call them our field units, or the officers that are out in the field. And common examples of priority 4 calls would be outstanding agency emergency response information. So if there's another agency that's in town, they would let us know. Extra patrol requests and routine animal service calls. So when it comes to dispatching those priorities, as I mentioned, it's 1 through 4. A priority 1 call, our dispatchers would send the closest available officers, and that's based on our automated vehicle locator. So the dispatch can see where all the officers are at. When a call comes out, that dispatcher, there's a system that will tell that dispatcher who the closest unit is, and that's who gets dispatched to those calls. If there's an officer available on a lower priority call, he can be broke free from that call to respond to the priority 1. If there's no units available, the supervisor will be notified, and the supervisor will arrange to have an officer get out there as soon as he possibly can. Priority 2 calls, that's a little different because they're not emergency calls, and those would be set aside for the responsible beat officer. Our city is broken down into what we call 7 beats, 7 sectors, and if it's a priority 2 call, the officer working that particular sector would respond to that call. If that officer is tied up, there may be a secondary officer that could respond as well. And if there isn't an available officer, it would pend until that officer is free or another officer is free. Our priority 3 calls, as I mentioned, those are the calls where the suspect is no longer on scene, there's no type of emergency, and those are prioritized basically when the officer is able to respond. Some of those calls can also be handled by our civilian staff, such as our community service officers, also our mental health team that we work with. Will respond to those priority 3 calls. And as I mentioned, priority 4 basically informational only type calls, so they usually don't require a police officer response. So that is it for those 3 topics there: the staffing, EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Center, and also dispatch priorities.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
No public comments, thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you for the information.
Of course.
Just so the public could hear, I understand the rating of calls and so forth. What do you?
Your mic.
I'm sorry. What do you think are or any kind of an estimate on response time, say, category 1, 2, 3, do you have any kind of expectation the public might be able to? I know it's based on availability of officers and so forth, but is there an expectation on response?
Yeah, it really differs day by day. There may be situations where you call the police and it could be a priority 3 call, and they could be there within several minutes, if not sooner, just based off the pending calls for service, depending on that officer's location. But if you're gonna look down at the general breakdown of our response times, for priority 1 calls, it's an average about 7 minutes. And that's across all priority 1s. And sometimes your priority 1 calls could be silent alarms, which at times they are a priority, but they can kind of skew the numbers. So yeah, our average response time for priority 1s is 7 minutes. For our priority 2s, it's roughly about 14 to 15 minutes, and priority 3s roughly about 20 minutes. Like I said, it varies day by day. It depends on where the officers are at. It could be a speed by coincidence, an officer can be right around the corner. It could be a day where we have, all our officers are tied up on some emergency calls, and it could be delayed. So it's hard to give you a definite answer, but what I can tell you is our officers, they work hard and get into the scene as quickly as possible, especially if it's a priority 1 where there's a imminent threat to life. We do all we can to get there within several minutes, if not less.
I appreciate that. I know we had in our neighborhood, we had probably a priority 2, and it was 8 minutes. It was good.
Yes, it varies day by day, and sometimes, on those priority 3 calls where our civilian staff, our CSOs can handle, sometimes they're more readily available, and they can get there really quick at times.
Great, thank you.
Co-chair?
Thanks, Captain. Going back to the Emergency Operations Center and disaster preparedness, does the city do an annual drill with employees and so on to just activate the EOC and walk through, some of the scenarios that may or may not be dealt with?
Absolutely. So over the years, we've worked with a number of consultants. Typically, we'll bring in, someone who's an expert in the field. We're currently working with a new consultant now. His name is Doug Pittman. He works for Crisis MC 911. He's one of the best in the business. He's in the process now of updating our emergency operation plan. As I mentioned, it was last updated in 2021. So he's in the process of updating the plan and also coordinating training amongst all staff. That training is in the works, I believe sometime in January or February. But in the meantime, our staff has also been in contact with the county, and we're working on some tabletop exercises. Beginning in January 21st is the next tabletop exercise with the county.
Thanks very much. And then if the emergency is one that tends to be more, let's just say it was a major hazmat. I know PD is the lead agency here in town, but something like a hazmat is going to tend to be more in the purview of fire. So are you going to have a joint command with them, or are you going to be, you'll still be the lead agency with fire just managing the situation?
Well, fire is, they're the experts in hazmat response, and we've had a number of issues over the years. It didn't require a full EOC activation citywide with all city staff, but we've had a number of incidents working with Cocoa Fire on hazmat, especially with Dow Chemical being nearby. They've had some issues over the years, and a number of other things. We work very closely with Confire. They're involved in our emergency operation planning and coordination. I think the most recent kind of coordinated effort was some large hill fires. We call it Beat 4, but it's over in the Mira Vista Hills location. And even though the EOC isn't stood up on a regular basis, a matter of fact, I think since I've been here for 25 years, we've never stood up the EOC. But we are really good at responding to emergencies. We do it on a regular basis. So when it comes to issues that don't require a full EOC response, we have a great working relationship with all our allied agencies, with Confire and the other allies we have within the county.
Great, thanks very much.
You.
Thank you, Captain Bittner.
Yeah, you can call me Desmond if you want.
Desmond. Thank you for the information as well. Does the police department have on their website, I should know this, but does the police department have where you can sign up for the county emergency alert system to be directed to like designated places for after a disaster, like a fire in the neighborhood or a earthquake or something like that? Is there anything that directs folks beforehand to sign up for alerts throughout the county? I know that some people get them in big crises, but is that accessible for people?
We have a lot of information on our city site, but I don't believe there is the option to sign up for the county alerts. It's a great idea. Glad you brought it up. It's something we can look into. It'd be an easy addition to our website, and I'm sure the county wouldn't have a problem with it.
Thank you. That's my only question. Thanks.
Thank you. I have no questions.
No questions?
No questions.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. No more? All right, well, then I think we're on next to the PSP presentation.
That is you as well.
Okay. Well, the chief gave a PSP closeout presentation in early October at the police department, where he invited the community, some police department staff, and also PSP were present as well. And since the chief can't be here tonight to give his presentation, he provided me with what he did provide. So in order to be consistent with what he provided and also the data, I'm just going to read basically what he presented back in October, if that's okay. So please forgive me if I'm looking down reading the chief's work here.
Just real quick, just for the folks who listening here and at home, PSP stands for Public Safety Partnership.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
And
in the
this
agenda.
will kind of touch into it. So yes, the Public Safety Partnership, we entered an agreement with the Public Safety Partnership, I think roughly about 4 years ago, that really help us make some improvements throughout the police department. So this is from Chief Vigil. First and foremost, he'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to the Bureau of Justice Assistance for the opportunity to participate in the National Public Safety Partnership, that's PSP, over the past 4 years. It's been an incredible journey and growth and progress for our department. I want to take a moment to personally thank Chief Womack. Chief Womack she heads the PSP program, or she was our designated contact person for PSP, for her unwavering dedication to both the Antioch Police Department and the City of Antioch. Without her leadership and commitment, we would have not achieved the level of progress we've seen in recent years. I'd also like to recognize our PSP partners at the Bureau of Justice Assistance and the District Attorney's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's the FBI, the County Task Force, and the many staff who contributed to assessments, programming, training, and peer exchanges. Your support has not only helped grow our organization, but has also played a fundamental role in rebuilding and strengthening our agency. Through the PSP program, we're able to send several detectives to advanced investigations training in schools specializing in assaults and homicides. Peer exchanges allow both sworn and non-sworn staff to observe successful programs in areas such as vehicle theft, drone deployment, bringing back valuable insights, training, and protocols that enhance our existing practices. Staff also attended the BJA, that's the Bureau of Justice Assistance, PSP annual conference, and the Professional Law Enforcement Community Engagement Training, which provided a fresh perspective and actionable ideas we could incorporate into our community engagement strategies. Our department received critical assessments in such areas as strategic planning, non-fatal shootings, technology, crime analysis, and most recently, community engagement practices. These assessments have enabled us to improve our operational responses, collaborate more effectively with the Department of Public Safety, and better allocate resources based on data and emerging trends. As a result, we are now more capable of analyzing statistical data, redeploying personnel, and enhancing our service delivery. These assessments also provided us with the roadmap for strengthening community relationships and developing impactful new programs. We remain focused on completing several key training and technical assistance initiatives. These include evaluating our hiring and recruiting practices, and I kind of touched on that. Our hiring and recruiting practices are going very well. Exploring the establishment of a real-time crime center, which is in the works, and developing a community survey to ensure we remain responsive and connected to the needs of those we serve. Once again, thank you to everyone who has supported our efforts, partnered with us, and helped make us a stronger, more effective agency. We're deeply grateful and look forward to building on this momentum in the years ahead. And that was from Chief Vigil. If you have any questions specific to some of the different assessments, I can field those questions for you.
Great. Is there any public comment?
No public comments, thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy discussion? I'm just going down the line.
Can you talk a little bit in a little more detail about the community engagement assessment and what that's going to entail and how far and wide that's going to be distributed?
Yeah, well, our community engagement, several years, if not months. I touched on this a few things. So what we've done in relation to the assessment was we now have in creating new opportunities for engagement efforts. He's here today, and I believe you all know him. If not, you have the opportunity to meet him after this later on tonight. And also our community survey, which is in the works. We were planning on rolling that out sometime early 2026.
And thank you, because that was actually what I was the most interested in hearing more about, was the actual survey and what that might look like and what folks can expect.
Well, as of right now, it's still in the works. I know we're working with a number of different universities to assist us in that survey. So a lot of work has gone into it, and I know we're planning to roll it out sometime in early of next year, hopefully January. And that's just going to be one more opportunity for the community to let us know about their concerns, how they want to see the city of Antioch and the police department in the future.
Commissioner Ah? Co-chair?
I just had a question about the non-fatal shootings review. If you could expand on or elaborate on any of that information.
Yeah, that's just doing the best we can to resolve those non-fatal shootings and identify the shooters and make sure that those shootings don't happen again. And our approach to that is, one of the main recommendations is creating specialized units to deal with non-fatal shootings. We're approaching that area. Also, we had an issue with staffing, so as our investigations unit continues to increase and expand in numbers, we'll be able to dedicate dedicated units to deal strictly with non-fatal shootings. Right now, we've introduced some technology to assist us with that in the meantime, one being our shot spotter expansion, which occurred about a year ago today. We're also in the process of creating a real-time crime center. We entered a contract with a company called Fusus that will help us bring together some of our community cameras throughout the entire city to hopefully help us identify some of the people responsible for these non-fatal shootings.
Thank you. How do you spell Fusus?
Good question. I think it's an Axon product. I believe it's F-U-S-U-S.
F-U-S-U-S. F-U-S.
And what Fusus does, that's typically is the platform for a real-time crime center. So if you weren't aware, I think Lieutenant Whitaker did a presentation to council and maybe even APOC the past few months. We have over 100 plus cameras throughout town, and those aren't all police department cameras. They're different community buildings, and that's obviously not including all the cameras that are around town that belong to private companies, private individuals. So it brings all those cameras together to one location so they can be viewed by the police department, detectives, civilian employees to identify individuals involved in a number of crimes, not just shootings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have a question. Are you able to expand more on what areas is the main target, the main focus in the city of Antioch? Is it the whole entire city of Antioch, or is it District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4?
Well, it's pretty much it's all data driven. So the areas in town where there's going to be your most shootings, and that's based off crime reporting, also our shot spotter system. It does tend to be in that Sycamore corridor in the downtown areas. I mean, there's a number of areas where there may be more shootings in other parts of the town, and we work with our crime analysts and some other crime analyst software that helps us identify those areas, the likely times of occurrence, the areas of town where it's more likely to occur, and that's where we deploy our resources.
I know the city's been working hard on the Neighborhood Watch revitalization.
Yes.
And I know Officer Fatchner's been working hard on it. It would be nice to get maybe a report out, maybe next meeting or whatever, on the progress of that and what's going on in the city. I know it was a big kickoff and haven't heard much about it since then.
Absolutely. In addition to our neighborhood watch, our business watch is doing really well. In addition to the neighborhood watch, and I'm sure Sergeant Fashioner would love to do a presentation for you.
Noted for future agenda items. In regards to the programs, you mentioned that there's a responsibility to create or design programs.
Yes, in the recommendations that were provided by PSP, expand our investigations unit back to full strength. At one point, we had 20-plus investigators or detectives. We're currently right around 11. So as those numbers continue to increase, then yeah, our plan is to dedicate more of our detectives to deal with those shooting cases.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And Ms. Taylor, if I might say also, if there's no public comments, that's fine, but I'm always available, the chief's available, our staff are always available to field any type of questions.
Oh, Ms. Wilson.
There's public comment. You're welcome.
Yeah, any questions, any concerns, we're an open book and very transparent, so feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
She done came to steal your microphone, huh?
No, I just want to, Velma Wilson, I just want to say thank you, because, I got y'all. We talked about community engagement. I heard the question about community engaging, and I would be remiss by sitting there and not speaking to the fact that I was sitting in the final PSP meeting, and it was amazing to hear the information and what we have to look forward to, and that the city of Antioch is going in the right direction. And so myself, along with your vice chair, Devin was there, and it was just an amazing outpour. I do want to say we are actively, because part of the closeout, there is some demands that we know that has to be reached to do the official closeout. We are actively working on that. I don't know if, Devin, you had left when we had spoke to that came up by the FBI and all the agencies there, but that is being actively, and it really highlights the Neighborhood Watch component. National Night Out was right around the corner, so was actually right before we did this meeting, and so they spotlighted the fact that the city has not let National Night Out phase away, and we're going to be doing something more. So what I want to do is really appeal to the community. If you were a national or a block captain for your community, for your particular neighborhood, please make sure you sign back up to do that, because community and policing is what is going to help us make some changes. So be looking out. We are going to be we're actually actively making plans now to create that space, that healing space that we've been speaking about, but also to bring the community together cohesively that live in the city of Antioch and want to see Antioch move forward. Because when we do it, guess what? All our neighboring communities, Brentwood, Pittsburgh, Discovery Bay, all of those communities that sometimes get lost in the whole minutia of what Antioch is doing, and we actually are doing some amazing things. Shout out to APD for being out there for our highlight for Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day, when we were making sure pedestrian safety was the first and foremost. I will say there is some work that we need to do around that, because around the schools, cars are going just way too fast. We even saw 2 school buses who violated red lights, and they were going through red lights. That should not be happening. So I will be speaking to that with AUSD, because again, we're talking about school safety, we're talking about pedestrian safety, and I really want to thank Amiri and Dan and Matt, yeah, all of you all for being out there, helping, making sure that we did our part to highlight and spotlight pedestrian safety.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
No further public comments, thank you.
Thank you. On to item 5-3 for the NACO report out.
Chair, I would like to make a motion to move the item 5-3 to our next meeting, seeing that a lot of our commissioners weren't able to get their reports in.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Mitchell,
Yay.
Commissioner Eloquachi, absent. Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Chair Taylor.
Aye.
The motion passes with Commissioner Eloquachi absent.
Thank you. On to
Can
item.
I say something? Thank you, Susan, for getting
Yeah.
your report in.
Well, I have mine is done too, but we are not ready.
From Indiana, by the way. Proactive, yes.
Can I just ask that it maintain its position and for next time?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of information, so.
Item 5-4 is our 2026 Antioch goal setting session.
Chairwoman Taylor, I would like to put forth a motion for this agenda item to be moved to our next meeting on December 1st.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Eloquachi, absent. Commissioner Kennedy,
Abstain.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Chair Taylor.
Aye.
The motion passes with Commissioner Eloquachi absent and Commissioner Kennedy abstaining. Thank you.
Is there a particular homework that would be beneficial for us to do ahead of this discussion?
Sure, look at A through F and document what you want to discuss.
No. Some of this is fairly broad. So for example, the ad hoc for commission readiness has in its report tonight goals for 2026. So it would appear that the ad hocs should come back with goals. And then is any of this going to be information that can be incorporated into the annual report to the city council?
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the goal of it, and I think that's a great idea. I'm thankful that you brought that forward, that maybe we'll have the ad hoc present first, and then the body can then decide on what they want to take out of what you guys are presenting, and then, yes, we can take that information and put it into the report, absolutely.
And I'm just going to interrupt here. In terms of this, let me quickly frame this for you all, and then you can decide what needs to come back for you to have a robust discussion about this. In fact, I actually had a facilitation guide for this conversation and saw Commissioner Kennedy's ad hoc and thought, oh, they got a head start on some of these items. So for each community police commission, every year they approach their work in a different way, depending on the needs of the city as well as the ordinance that they're under. For the 2026 Antioch Police Oversight Commission work plan, we looked at certain things that you need to advance your work. Goals and approach, and how you want to look at work planning. Do you want to have a facilitator? Do you want to go at it alone, like, the self-help section of the bookstore, which I don't recommend? How do you want to look at your work for 2026 to make it actionable, transparent, have deliverables? So going over your work areas per the ordinance, and that's pre-discussion that's going to occur with both the council and the APOC as a joint study session in Q1 of 2026. And then that also goes into the 2026 APOC Comprehensive Community Engagement Plan. In that plan, we take all of the information that has been given to you all, not just your ad hoc, it's also our consultant, so Manjit Sapal, the settlement agreement that's already in place under the federal DOJ, as well as the impending settlement agreement under the Allen case that's coming out in a few weeks. And then how do you coalesce all that information to make a comprehensive community engagement plan across different needs, different mandates in the settlement agreements, and different expectations that we have in community. And then the creation of the ad hoc committee 2026 work plans to roll up or cascade up into the overall 2026 APOC work plan. So your ad hoc committees should complement your overarching work plan as your North Star. And a lot of the work should be actually done through those ad hoc committees and how you want to approach the work. So each ad hoc committee should have a robust work plan that rolls up and has the time, deliverables, and action items. And then you have additional areas for the 2026 work. That's the ad hoc and emergent work that comes up, say, when Captain Bittner's talking about our EOC, our loss hazard mitigation plan. I was going to ask you about the correct acronym. I got it wrong on the agenda, sorry. That was me. And so there are peripheral items that come outside of what happens. Sometimes we will have things in community happen and you need to fold that into your work plan and it will pivot and change. So it needs to be agile. And then overall, the community would like to know what are your timelines and deliverables for APOC in terms of going forward. We have a lot of conversations, but how do we move to action, right? So there's an overall goal setting that you need to do in order to go forward that guides your work. And then it also helps in planning for your budget. So, we advocated to increase your budget by $25,000 this year, so you have the $75,000, and, does it need to go up? If you want to do certain trainings like, the presentation that we had tonight. All of that needs to be factored in, which is a good time now as we close out 25, 26, and then we go into the 26, 27 in terms of the budget. So you want to have the 6-month check-ins on your work plan. So if you need any budget adjustments, you can let me know so I can let the finance team know when I'm presenting my budget in a few weeks. All right?
Thank you very much for that. And then as we look at this list, it occurs to me that it might also be beneficial. We've got the APOC work areas per the ordinance. We may want to add an item G, which is APOC work areas per the MOA with the DOJ.
Yes, and I just want to remind you that your areas for the public, again, are, let's see, First Amendment assemblies are crowd management, use of force, use of canines, use of de-escalation techniques on civilians, hate crimes or bias-based policing, including profiling based on any of the protected characteristics identified by federal, state, or local law. So that's also the approval or rejection of policies and proposed changes and procedures to APD. You also have that mandate to receive reports from the police department on publicly disclosable information concerning the status of civilian complaints. Develop a program for the mediation of civilian complaints in coordination with the chief of police, the city manager, and the city attorney. You are to study, develop, and recommend community policing alternative crime prevention policies and strategies to the chief of police, the city manager, city attorney, and city council. You're to assess and make recommendations regarding the role of social services and public safety, including but not limited to those related to mental health, alcohol and substance abuse, homelessness, juvenile justice, and education. You're to develop and recommend, in conjunction with the chief of police and the city manager, educational programs regarding policing in Antioch and community outreach events, such as town hall meetings, forums to communicate information about neighborhood watch programs, and events designed to encourage safety and emergency preparedness, which our captain has helped you along with tonight. And lastly, you are to request and review data from public records of the Antioch Police Department as needed to effectuate the Police Commission's powers and duties, including data regarding police use of force, demographics of individuals stopped, searched, or arrested, demographics of Antioch Police Department officers and staff, and officer training and qualifications. So while you do your 2026 goal settings, please anchor yourself in your mandates. And some of these things I remind you have not been started or discussed. So it's a good time as you have commissioners roll on to please anchor yourself into your mandates and then roll out your 2026 goals. And I see our city attorney has some
I was only just going to mention that, the mandate, as we have to see what happens when the ordinance goes back before council, but there was the extension in there to also include reviewing the personnel complaints policies for the Antioch Police Department. So that's something else that, you may want to get a head start on kind of factoring that into.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there any public comment?
No public comments, thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, public comment, general public comment.
No public comments, thank you.
For the ad hoc committee report outs.
There's two reports. I won't necessarily go into the draft communications plan that commissioners have in their packet in a whole lot of detail, but this is actually meant to be a starting point. One of the things that was mentioned at NACOL was the importance of having information available to the public, whether it's a brochure, whether it is some other items that can give people a better sense of who the commission is and what we do. But as far as a communications plan, this is really about creating some consistent messaging for the commission. It's also looking at ways to create perhaps outreach opportunities for us. There could be things like conversations with the commission. There could be a commissioner's corner where we do brief written or video messages from the commission or a commissioner that conveys a specific message. Some examples would be talking about the increase in police department staffing, talking about the fact that people sometimes wonder why the 911 dispatcher asks so many questions. Did you know that your answers provide critical information to officers and other agencies responding to the scene? It's important to remain calm and answer questions the best you can. Have you had an inappropriate encounter with APD for information on how to file a complaint? These are all just examples of things that we could do to make the public aware of information that sometimes they are not aware of. We could also contemplate a frequently asked questions section on the website so that, again, people can go there to get information. And these are also things that we can build out that commissioners would have available if they're doing presentations or having other conversations. So again, that messaging is consistent regardless of who we're talking to. So the request would be to take a look at this document. If folks have suggestions or things that they want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, if you could just let the community engagement ad hoc know that, we can continue to build that out. And then for commission readiness, we pulled together a list of our accomplishments for this year. We were able to establish a training plan and a training schedule that's going to begin in January of 2026. We've ensured that commissioners can train together and that those trainings will be recorded for anybody who misses those live sessions for additional review. And we are also beginning to identify additional training opportunities that could benefit commissioners in APD. Our goals for 2026 would be to ensure that commissioners complete the 20 hours of training from APD and that they all receive the ethics training per AB 1234. And then we have some recommendations moving forward that we would suggest that the Commission Readiness Ad Hoc be more involved in determining conference and training opportunities, also in conference registration and travel arrangements. We're contemplating creating a checklist, a travel checklist for commissioners for these different trainings. We'd also like to recommend, and we're willing to put this in the form of a motion, that we become organizational members of NACOL. Current cost is $500 a year, and it provides savings to the city. If we would have been members of NACOL in 2025, we would have saved $150 a person for each of the registrations for that conference. And we feel like the ad hoc committee members can help streamline the processes and save the city money if we can have a little more involvement in this area.
Much appreciated, and myself and Commissioner Mitchell can add that in our discussion for budget when we submit to city manager. Policing practices?
We did, that's the policing practices. We were not able to meet last week.
Budget has no report out?
Budget and community engagement does not have a report out.
Is there any public comment?
No public comments, thank you.
Thank you. Upcoming agenda items, we motioned earlier to move 2 of our large discussion items to the next meeting. We're prioritizing those.
I believe we should prioritize those that were moved. And I think we had a agenda item come up earlier tonight,
Yeah, for Neighborhood Watch.
Neighborhood Watch, right?
And then I know I also received an email in regards to a UC Berkeley presentation.
Yes.
Yes. Are you
Yes.
able to contact the person from UC Berkeley?
I could do my best, my very best, to get in contact with Chief Pittman,
Okay.
and then I'll get back with you.
So it's on the, just noted, 'cause from your email, it is on the running list,
Okay.
but we need a contact. That's the issue.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other items we want to move forward for the agenda?
I'm not sure if this belongs as an agenda item, but if we could get an indication of how much money is left in the APOC budget since we're at the midpoint of the fiscal year, that would also, I think, be beneficial in those instances where we're bringing in folks from the outside. If there's cost involved, it'll give us a better idea of what we might have available. And then, since Councilmember Freitas did make the request for a joint study session with the commission specifically regarding the ordinance, I would strongly recommend that we either bring that item back for a discussion among commissioners so that we can review the comments that were made back in July and make sure that we have a full complement of all of the proposed changes or suggestions that were made prior to when that meeting takes place.
I agree with that fully, and I think that the discussion is needed because if we cannot have joint study session, then we can add our recommendations in our report for what the ordinance shall look like later. So I agree with that, for sure. Anything else?
Back to our budget ad hoc. I've been doing a lot of research on it, and we'll get together this week, and I've got quite a few items to discuss on it, so I'll get with you this week.
We shall report out, is what he's saying.
And Chair Taylor, I just wanted to ask that we put Assembly Bill AB 847 on the running agenda list, because at some point in time, we are going to have to address this.
I agree.
Because it takes effect on January 1st, 2026. And for those of us who do not know, Gavin Newsom signed AB 47 into law as October 6th of this year. And what it does, it allows oversight commissions to have unvetted access to records. And right now, we do not have that authority. So I would just ask that some point in time, we have this discussion.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I did reach out to Member Sharp Collins as
Thank you.
suggested.
Sorry, did you, I'm just sorry, did you say AB 47?
847.
847.
847, Sharp Collins, Assemblywoman Sharp Collins.
And it's something that we really
847.
need to look into.
Yes, I did reach out to the office. When they respond, I will see if a member is able to, our staff member is able to come present for us. But I definitely agree and will make sure it's added.
Sherb Collins, which district do they represent?
Los Angeles. I'm not sure what the district is, but she's out of Los Angeles.
Okay,
Maria, California.
La Brea, okay. Thank you.
Any other items? Okay, so I have AB 847, Sharp Collins, NACO reports, our goal planning session, neighborhood watch presentation, UC Berkeley pending Commissioner Oha, and a ordinance discussion.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Staff communications?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Our next meeting date is December 1st.
Missed the 9 Antioch Police Oversight Commission report out.
Oh, sorry. Do we have anything to report out other than what we reported out? Commissioner Kennedy?
Just thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's great to see so many folks here. I don't know if you considered this to be particularly exciting, but I think that the PowerPoint presentation that Mike made was outstanding. Thank you so much for that. And we do need the input of the community, so thank you all for being here. I was able to participate in the downtown cleanup. Really strong turnout, lots of folks, lots of officers, and also lots of members of the business community, students who were getting community service hours, but real productive morning, and just thanks for continuing to do those.
Commissioner Oha?
I would like to thank Genesis Church, Pastor Damon and Pastor Chantel Owens for opening up their church to us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, you know, I was gone for a total of 9 days, additional 4 days after NACO, to visit my daughter in Georgia. But when I came back, I participated in an event in San Francisco, and I didn't do anything here in Antioch.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Again, our ad hoc thought was very productive over the last month. Really organized our goals and stated them, and I was very proud of the help from everybody. I know Lisa's not here, but she's been a fantastic help in that. And want to thank everyone for coming. This is one of the best turnouts we've had all year, and appreciate you all for being here. Thank you very much.
Co-chair? No?
Oh, yes. I was just trying to ask you a question. Yes, thank you, Genesis Church, Pastor Chantel, and Pastor Damon. Really appreciated being here with your community. This was very important, a location for us to be here. We felt that this is a hub for community voices, and y'all do so much work in the community. We just wanted to uplift you and your members in allowing us to have our meeting here tonight as you uplift us in the community. So thank you. Let's give them another hand clap for that. Thank you for everybody for bearing with us. Like Commissioner Kennedy stated, it's not always exciting news, but it's a good meeting, and we are very, very proud to serve y'all. And thank you again to Mike, Mr. Baldwin, for the presentation. And I hope that we can meet soon, with our city manager. I don't know, the city attorney. Who do I have to talk to meet with them and discuss what we can bring to our city? So thank you.
Contact information on the slide.
No, I know. So I just want to say I appreciate all of y'all for being here tonight, and our police department, of course, for always presenting and giving us those updates. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
in addition to all the great comments, just want to say, maybe it's me, but feel like there's a really good vibe starting to happen in the city. All these folks getting involved, police departments working hard, and just, it feels like things are getting better. So thank you all for being here.
Sharing same sentiment as everyone else. Thank you for hosting us. Very important for us to be in spaces like this in a community that has so much trauma. We want to come together. We want this to be a more transparent process. And so you opening up the house of the Lord, right, is super important. So thank you to Genesis Church, the pastors, for hosting us. Also, there will be community forums coming up where it is actually something where we can talk versus this kind of a setting. And so please come. It will not be this dry. It will be something where we can go back and forth with each other. Thank y'all for showing up tonight. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate you. No. Is there any public comment?
No public comment, thank you.
Okay.
She had a public comment in section 4.
Did we miss it? That's okay. You know, I know it's out of order. Don't get me in trouble, ma'am. Mm-hmm. No, you don't have to. If she don't want to. Mm-hmm. Come on. Look, come on. Mm-hmm.
This is an important question. Oh, I generally don't even need a mic. I loved your presentation. I did a lot of research into the history of policing. With FTOs, field training officers, being the go-to after training for all officers, how many enroll into your program, seeing that no matter what their mindset is, after training, they're the ones that cultivate everything in policing? You understand my question? All right.
Well, you know, we kind of broke the rules, so you know.
So depending on the department determines when they send FTOs. We do recognize that FTOs play a critical role in developing the mindset of new officers, and we also are looking to participate inside of some of the cadet training for new officers. But it depends on each department can determine which officers they're going to send into the training. We've had several departments that do send a couple of their FTOs into the workshop. However, you know, when you talk about the FTOs, you don't want to like cripple a department because of the training. So they usually can only sprinkle a couple of them in, but we do recognize really the deep importance of the FTOs being the ones who are doing the training. But not just the FTOs, we like for the respected brass to also participate because they're a respected voice inside of the department. And the department can be a very sheltered environment where the information is kind of packed in and you only feed off of each other. Many officers who become officers lose a lot of their other friends when they become officers because they end up having to kind of like stay close together. And so the trainings that we do usually spread throughout the department. So even if it doesn't just get the FTOs, the impact of it spreads and starts to really shift the culture inside of that department. All right.
Thank you. There's no other public comment, right? Okay.
No further public comment, thank you.
Staff communicates said no already. So our next meeting date is December 1st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
We do, but just one reminder.
Uh-huh.
Because of Thanksgiving, folks will have to have their reports in by Monday to be included in the agenda.
Calendar invite. Thank you so much.
And also move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
Second.
Is there a roll call, please?
Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Eloquachi absent. Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Commissioner Lacioja,
Aye.
Vice Chair Williams,
Yes.
Chair Taylor.
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:17 with Commissioner Eloquachi absent. Thank you.
Thank you.